The forest breathed in silver whispers that night, the full moon casting pale light through skeletal branches. A lone wolf moved with uncanny grace, its coat shimmering like liquid moonlight. Shadows bent and twisted around it, but it passed unseen, a phantom gliding between the trees. Legends spoke of a wolf stronger than the alpha, one whose presence could unsettle even the bravest pack. Few believed it was real, and even fewer would dare whisper the truth aloud, but the forest knew. It had felt the tremor of a power awakening, fierce and silent. Eyes like molten gold glinted from the underbrush, observing, calculating. The wolf paused atop a ridge, muscles coiled like drawn steel, nostrils flaring against the cold night air. There was a heartbeat of anticipation, the kind that made even the ancient oaks seem to shiver. Somewhere in the village, a young woman stirred in her sleep, unaware of the wolf within her, an untamed power waiting for the moment to break free. Her dreams trembled with shadows of fur, fangs, and fire. She acted fragile in the daylight, smiled when watched, bowed when ordered, but in her veins ran a wild strength that even the alpha could not command. The wind carried whispers, she comes, the hidden wolf comes, and in that night of silver and shadows, the wolf lingered patient, knowing the world was not yet ready, but soon it would be. Her boots crunched over frost-hardened leaves as she approached the alpha's court, heart hammering against ribs that seemed too fragile for the weight they bore. The torches flickered along the stone courtyard, casting long, quivering shadows that danced like ghosts around the assembled pack. She had rehearsed her greeting, practiced every measured bow, every soft syllable of respect. Yet nothing could prepare her for the weight of their scrutiny. All eyes fell upon her as she stepped forward, the murmur of whispers cutting sharper than any blade. Even the younger wolves recoiled slightly, sensing something in her that refused to bow, something that dared to challenge the unspoken hierarchy. And then there was him, the alpha, broad, shouldered, commanding, with eyes like storm clouds, the kind that could crush pride with a single glance. He did not move to greet her. He did not even blink. The silence was more damning than any insult. "Your presence is unexpected," he said finally, his voice low, almost bored, carrying across the courtyard. His words sliced through her, public humiliation wrapped in casual disdain. Her pulse quickened, her wolf stirring beneath the surface, claws scraping against the cage of her humanity. She forced a smile, bowing her head, but it felt hollow, a mask that barely contained the fire within. "I am stronger than you know," she thought, "but not yet. Not yet." The pack tittered, a ripple of amusement passing among the onlookers. She felt the sting of rejection, a poison that clawed at the edges of her resolve. Every instinct screamed to lash out, to reveal the teeth that no one had yet seen, but she stayed still, mastering the tremor in her hands. Yet even in this public shame, her wolf's presence was undeniable. It whispered through her, a low growl in the pit of her chest that only she could hear. This is not the end. The alpha's gaze lingered a fraction too long, betraying the denial in his tone. He did not admit it, but curiosity sparked behind his storm, gray eyes. And though she was forced to retreat under the weight of whispers and mocking glances, she carried with her a seed of defiance. By the time the torchlight flickered along her path home, her wolf had settled into a silent simmer. But the night had not yet ended. Somewhere in the shadowed edges of the forest, two golden eyes watched her, and the legend that had whispered through the trees felt alive, waiting for its moment to rise. Her humiliation at the alpha's court had not gone unnoticed, though not for the reasons the pack thought. Whispers followed her like shadows, hushed conversations behind cupped hands, eyes flicking toward her with a mix of curiosity and unease. "She's different," one young wolf murmured. "Did you see the way she held herself, even under his scorn? Different." That word clawed at her as she moved through the village streets, each step measured, controlled. She felt the eyes on her, always, even when no one dared approach. Her wolf stirred with every glance, sensing the faint tremor of recognition, something primal, something powerful that belonged to no one else. At the edge of the forest she paused, letting the night embrace her. Moonlight filtered through the branches, silver on her hair, silver on her skin. Her hands brushed over the cold bark of an oak, and a surge of energy pulsed through her. Unseen, untamed, it hummed beneath her calm exterior. The whispers were right. There was power in her blood, and it was waking. Meanwhile, the Alpha could not stop thinking about her. He denied it to himself with every ounce of pride he possessed, yet curiosity gnawed at him. A shiver of recognition ran through him whenever he pictured the way she had held her ground, the subtle defiance hidden behind her humility. Something in her had ruffled the pack's rigid order, and it intrigued him. "She doesn't belong," he told his second in command, his voice low, almost reluctant, and yet, "There's something about her I cannot ignore." Even as rumors of her mysterious lineage spread like wildfire, she remained careful. She did not reveal her wolf, did not let the pack glimpse the strength simmering beneath her quiet exterior. But every glance, every word exchanged, reminded her that the veil she wore was fragile. And fragile though it may be, it was all that separated her from chaos. Later that night, she sat at the edge of the forest, listening to the wind through the trees. The whispers of the hidden wolf in the shadows had grown louder, almost impatient. She closed her eyes and let herself feel it, not fear, not shame, but something exhilarating. A promise of power, of secrets waiting to be revealed. Somewhere in the distance, eyes watched. The Alpha, torn between denial and fascination, felt a pull he could not name. He would not admit it, yet he could not look away. And she, unaware of how close the threads of fate were weaving them together, allowed herself a quiet, defiant smile. The forest seemed to lean in closer that night, as if sharing a secret it had been keeping for centuries. The wolf within her was no ordinary creature, and soon the world would know. The courtyard was alive with anticipation the next morning. Sunlight caught on polished stones, glinting off the weapons of assembled wolves, all eager for the display that the Alpha had promised. A challenge, he had called it, a test to show weakness, to humiliate anyone who dared step too far beyond their place. She stood at the edge of the circle, feeling the familiar thrum of her wolf beneath her skin. Her pulse raced not with fear, but with a simmering excitement she barely allowed herself to name. She had been underestimated once. She would not allow it again. The Alpha's gaze swept over her like a storm. "You claim to belong here," he said, his voice carrying authority and the faintest trace of amusement. "Let us see if you are as weak as you pretend to be." A murmur of laughter ran through the pack, underestimating her once more. She drew in a slow breath, letting her wolf sharpen her senses. Every movement, every subtle shift in the breeze was noticed. Every glance from the Alpha was catalogued. She was small, delicate, looking, but the fire in her amber eyes spoke a different truth. The challenge began. Other wolves performed feats of agility and strength, their muscles flexing, their teeth bared. When her turn came, she stepped forward, serene, almost fragile, and then she moved. Her movements were fluid, graceful, a dance disguised as effort. She dodged, leapt, and countered with precision that no one expected. The pack gasped as she subtly outmaneuvered the Alpha's tests, not by brute force, but by cunning and instinct. Every step, every dodge, every feint whispered of a power that defied appearances. The Alpha's eyes narrowed, storm gray and unreadable. He had expected weakness, and instead he found controlled strength. Controlled, yes, but there was also raw potential there, a dangerous spark that refused to bow. His pride wrestled with his growing fascination. "She's remarkable," muttered a rival wolf, envy lacing his voice. "How is she not one of us yet?" She caught the comment, the faint smile on her lips hidden beneath polite composure. Her wolf purred quietly, a deep, satisfied vibration, reveling in the subtle victory. She had won, not with arrogance, but with quiet cunning, with patience, with awareness. As the crowd dispersed, whispers followed her like shadows. The Alpha lingered alone, studying her from across the courtyard. His pride warred with his curiosity, but one thought dominated. She is more than anyone imagined, more than even I imagined. She met his gaze for a fraction of a heartbeat, and something unspoken passed between them. A recognition of power, of potential, of the unacknowledged spark that connected them. Then, without a word, she turned and walked away, leaving the Alpha to wonder how someone so seemingly fragile could carry such fire. That night, the forest welcomed her again, cool and quiet. Her wolf prowled beside her, invisible yet alive, whispering its approval. They do not yet know the storm that is coming, it promised, and she, for the first time, allowed herself to believe it. The night had draped the forest in velvet darkness, the moon a silver witness above. She moved silently among the shadows, each step measured, each breath steady. The Alpha's court no longer loomed over her with its public scrutiny. Here she was alone, save for the presence that had always followed her, the wolf that lurked beneath her skin. She pressed her hands against the rough bark of a towering oak, eyes closing as the tension of the day melted into controlled fury. The humiliation, the laughter, the whispers, they all sought to break her, but instead they had forged something sharper within her. Her wolf stirred, restless, sensing the weakness others assumed she carried. It whispered, "They do not know what you are. Let them try to see the truth." Her heartbeat quickened, not with fear, but with the power that flowed like molten steel beneath her calm exterior. She imagined the Alpha, prideful and distant, believing he had judged her completely. Let him think he understood. Let him underestimate her as everyone else had. A soft growl rose in her throat, barely audible, yet it carried through the silence, vibrating with restrained power. Her claws flexed beneath her fingertips, though no one would see them. Every muscle coiled, ready to unleash, yet held back by careful control. She was a storm disguised as stillness, and then came the echo of movement. Predatory, cautious. She tensed, senses sharpened by the wolf's awareness. A shadow flitted across the clearing. Her wolf bristled, muscles tensing instinctively. She stepped forward, slow, deliberate, letting the darkness be her ally. The figure halted, uncertain, underestimating the strength concealed in her delicate frame. She did not speak. Words were unnecessary. Power was in every step, every measured tilt of her head, every flicker of golden eyes glinting in the moonlight. The forest itself seemed to bow to her presence, wind carrying the whisper of her wolf through the trees. It was a promise and a warning. I am here. I am more than they suspect. Alone, she allowed the full breadth of her fury to simmer beneath her calm exterior, tasting the power that had been locked away too long. It was intoxicating, this silent strength that no one could see but that she could feel coursing through her veins. Her wolf purred deep and satisfied, acknowledging the bond that made her unbreakable. For a moment, she permitted herself a private smile, a rare acknowledgement of the fire within. The Alpha's arrogance, the pack's scrutiny, the court's expectations, they meant nothing here. Here, in the quiet of the forest, she was whole, and her wolf was free. Yet even as her mind calmed, a flicker of anticipation burned in her chest. She knew it was only a matter of time before the Alpha noticed, not just her defiance, but her power. And when he did, the wind carried the promise and the shadows seemed to lean closer. The storm within her had awakened, silent, deadly, unstoppable. The next morning, the pack's compound buzzed with activity, but she moved through it like a shadow of calm, carefully measuring every glance, every step. Her wolf still thrummed beneath her skin, restless and aware, sensing the subtle shifts in the Alpha's attention that no one else could see. It began with a fleeting look across the training grounds, a flicker of acknowledgement that lasted no longer than a heartbeat. He caught her eye, and something passed between them, unspoken yet electric. A spark that should not exist, but undeniably did. She turned away, pretending to adjust her stance, her fingers brushing the handle of her dagger. Her chest tightened, not with fear, but with something dangerously close to longing. Her wolf stirred, growling softly in warning and anticipation. "Do not falter," it whispered. "Do not reveal too much yet." The Alpha approached, his presence cutting through the morning air like a blade. He walked slowly, deliberately, each step commanding attention. When he finally stopped beside her, the air between them was taut with unspoken words, tension crackling like lightning. "Your form. Improving," he said, his voice low, controlled. But the faint smirk, tugging at the corner of his lips, betrayed him. He had noticed. He could not deny it. He had tried and failed. Her eyes lifted to meet his amber-meeting storm, gray, and the world seemed to narrow to just that fragile, forbidden space between them. Pride and instinct warred with desire, each refusing to give in. She did not smile, she did not bow. She merely held his gaze, letting the simmering tension speak for her. A rival wolf passed, laughing at some jest, oblivious to the silent storm gathering in the space between them. But she felt it, he felt it. The pack may not have known, but they did. Their stolen glances were the quiet rebellion of two souls recognizing one another across a battlefield of pride, power, and secrets. Later, as the sun dipped toward the horizon, they found themselves alone near the edge of the forest. The wind carried the scent of pine and frost, and every instinct in her body screamed at her wolf to step closer, to reveal just a fraction of the fire she held. But she stayed back, letting the tension simmer, letting the alpha taste the uncertainty. He studied her, silent now, as if measuring every pulse, every subtle shift in posture, every flicker of emotion across her face. And in that quiet, the forbidden connection deepened, a dangerous, exhilarating thread that neither dared fully acknowledge. A branch snapped in the distance, and her wolf stiffened, alert. He tensed in response, his alpha instincts awakening. Their eyes met once more, brief and loaded, before reality intruded. They stepped apart, forced to return to the roles dictated by pack rules and pride. Yet the memory lingered, smoldering, a silent promise of what might come when masks fell and secrets could no longer be contained. The whispers began softly, like the first crack of ice underfoot, but they spread quickly, fueled by curiosity and envy. A rival, clever, cunning, and cruel, had started piecing together the fragments of her past, the strange feats that no ordinary shifter could accomplish, and the glimpses of power she kept hidden. She's not what she seems. The rival murmured to a small cluster of wolves, eyes glinting with malicious intent. Her blood, it's not ordinary. I've seen things in her that no fledgling should possess. Unaware of the plot forming against her, she trained in the moonlit clearing, her wolf coiled and ready beneath her calm exterior. Every movement was precise, controlled, a dance of strength and subtlety. Yet she sensed the tension in the pack growing, the way eyes lingered longer, murmurs following her through corridors and alleys. Her wolf growled low in her chest, "They are close to discovering you. You must be careful." She tightened her focus, letting the forest around her absorb the noise, the judgments, the threats. Every instinct screamed that exposure could be dangerous, yet she could not hide forever. And perhaps, deep down, part of her longed to be recognized, not for the fragile mask she wore, but for the power that thrummed like molten fire in her veins. The alpha, ever perceptive, had begun noticing the subtle signs, the way rival wolves exchanged sharp glances, the whispered conversations cut short when he approached. His curiosity had grown into suspicion, the stirrings of awareness he could no longer deny. "She is not ordinary," he muttered almost to himself while observing her from a distance. His storm, gray eyes softened in fascination, but pride still held his words at bay. Yet the undeniable truth lingered between them, silent and electrifying. Later, as night fell and shadows stretched long, the rival made their move. Evidence of her mysterious lineage, a faded pendant, a fragment of a letter, was deliberately left in plain sight for the pack to find. The trap was set. She discovered it first, the pendant clutched in her hand, heart hammering. Her wolf hissed inside her, sharp and angry, demanding action. They dare threaten you, let them see what they cannot control. But she did not act rashly. Instead, she concealed the evidence, tucking it away where none would find it. Her mind raced with possibilities, strategizing the delicate balance of revealing power without inviting immediate danger. Yet the alpha had noticed. He approached silently, his presence commanding even in the darkness. "You are not who they think you are," he said, voice low, almost a growl, holding more questions than answers. Her gaze met his amber meeting storm, gray, and she felt the unspoken acknowledgement pass between them. He knew something was hidden. He knew she was stronger than the pack realized, and he would not, could not, let it go unnoticed. The night pressed close, heavy with anticipation. Secrets were fragile, easily shattered, and now, with the rival plotting and the alpha's attention locked on her, the world she had so carefully navigated teetered on the edge of revelation. Her wolf purred low, a dangerous, impatient vibration. Soon, it promised, Soon they will all see. The forest had grown colder, shadows stretching like fingers across the clearing, as if warning her that the calm was over. The rival had stepped from whispers into action, bold and dangerous, determined to expose the secrets she had so carefully hidden. She sensed it before she saw it, movement in the trees, the faintest crackle of dry leaves underfoot. Her wolf stirred beneath her skin, muscles coiling, senses sharpening. Something about the air felt electric, heavy with challenge and threat, looking for something. A voice hissed from the darkness, sharp and mocking. She turned slowly, amber eyes meeting the smirk of the rival wolf who had been plotting against her, the same one who had spread rumors of her lineage, the one who had dared try to unmask her. Now he stood before her, confident, predatory, believing he had the upper hand. "You should have stayed in the shadows," she said, her voice calm, controlled, yet carrying an edge that made him hesitate. Her wolf growled softly beneath her ribs, a warning that no ordinary threat could silence. The rival lunged, claws flashing in the dim light. She sidestepped with a dancer's grace, letting his momentum carry him forward while she stayed perfectly balanced, her presence radiating power he could not anticipate. Every move was precise, instinctive, controlled fury disguised as fragile motion. "You are stronger than you look." He spat, recovering with a snarl, but not strong enough. Her lips curved in a faint smile. "Not strong enough, watch closely." Her wolf surged within, amplifying her speed, her awareness, her strength. She was no longer just the seemingly delicate figure the pack had underestimated. She was a storm contained, waiting for the right moment to strike. A blur of motion. He lunged again, faster this time. She met him, every sinew and nerve attuned to anticipate, to counter, to dominate. And when she pushed back even slightly, the force of it left him stumbling, shocked. Behind the trees, unseen, the alpha storm. Gray eyes narrowed. He had come to the clearing silently, drawn by instinct, by curiosity, by the unspoken bond tugging at him since the first glance. He observed the duel, the controlled wrath in her movements, and his pulse quickened. She was more than he had imagined, far more. The rival scrambled to retreat, realizing too late that he had underestimated her. With one final glance at her unyielding amber gaze, he vanished into the darkness, humiliated and seething. She exhaled slowly, wolf still rumbling beneath her skin, heart steadying. She had defended herself without fully revealing her strength, but the night had made something clear. She was no longer invisible. Her power was stirring, undeniable, and the alpha knew it. He stepped forward, the distance between them charged with energy. "You are unlike anyone I have ever met," he said, voice low, tension underlying every word. "And you are dangerous." A shiver of anticipation ran through her, not fear, but recognition. Yes, her wolf whispered, dangerous, powerful, free. The forest held its breath, as if aware that nothing would ever be the same. Shadows and whispers, power and desire, they were all converging now, and the game had only just begun. The pack was restless, the air thick with tension and unspoken rivalries. Alliances shifted like sand underfoot, whispers cutting sharper than claws. The rival's failed attempt to expose her had not gone unnoticed, and now every wolf was on edge, watching, waiting for the next spark that might ignite chaos. She moved through the compound with purpose, her wolf alert beneath her skin, senses attuned to every whisper, every glance. She had survived challenges, humiliation, and schemes, yet the danger now felt more tangible, personal, political, and deeply intertwined. The alpha observed from his elevated perch, storm, gray eyes tracking her movements with interest he refused to admit aloud. His pride battled with fascination, yet he could not deny the truth. She was becoming a force the pack could not ignore, and though he would never say it outright, it both unnerved and thrilled him. Her influence grows. A senior wolf muttered, voice heavy with concern. "She moves like she belongs here, and yet she's not even one of us." She heard the words, the undercurrent of fear and jealousy, and felt a surge of determination. Her wolf prowled beneath her skin, low and resonant, promising that she would not bow to threats, intrigue, or the rigid rules of pack politics. The rival, emboldened by frustration, made another attempt, gathering a small contingent of discontented wolves to challenge her authority indirectly, through subtle sabotage, rumors, and intimidation. They underestimated her still, unaware that every move, every whispered plan, fed the storm inside her. A confrontation became inevitable. In the training grounds, the rival confronted her openly, claws poised, eyes burning with malice. The pack gathered, tension crackling like lightning across the clearing. She met the challenge with calm fury, every motion precise, controlled, yet laden with strength. Her wolf surged within, a coiled promise of power and defiance that none could ignore. The alpha stepped forward at that moment, his presence cutting through the tension. He did not interfere, not yet, but the storm in his eyes acknowledged the truth. She was no longer merely a subject of curiosity. She was a contender, a force to be reckoned with, and her growing influence threatened to disrupt the fragile balance of the pack. The rival hesitated under the weight of her gaze, the realization dawning too late. Even the alpha, who had underestimated her for so long, could see it now. Her power was undeniable, her presence commanding, and her wolf fierce and ready. When the confrontation ended, the rival slunk away, defeated, humiliated, and plotting still. She remained in the clearing, breath steady, wolf coiled and satisfied beneath her calm exterior. She had survived yet another trial, and with every victory, her influence over the pack grew. The alpha approached afterward, Storm, gray eyes meeting amber with intensity. "You are formidable," he admitted, voice low, barely more than a growl. Pride warred with fascination, but the acknowledgement was clear, stronger than anyone imagined. Her wolf purred beneath her ribs, a low, satisfied vibration. She had survived the chaos, navigated the politics, and claimed her place. Not fully recognized, not fully revealed, but undeniable nonetheless. The pack was shifting, alliances trembling, and the alpha's attention was no longer casual. The war for control, for respect, and for hearts had begun, and in the midst of it all, her wolf waited, ready to rise when the time came. The moon hung low and silver over the forest, casting long shadows across the clearing where the pack trained and prowled. The night was alive with subtle movement, rustling leaves, the occasional snap of a branch. But she moved with ease, every sense sharpened, wolf coiled beneath her skin. She was not alone. From the edge of the clearing, Storm, gray eyes followed her, the alpha's presence both commanding and magnetic. She felt the tension ripple in the air between them, unspoken and electric. Every glance, every subtle shift of posture, carried layers of meaning neither dared voice aloud. Suddenly a threat emerged. A rogue from a neighboring pack, emboldened by rumor and darkness, stepped into the clearing, claws glinting under the moonlight. The pack reacted instantly, but it was she who sensed the danger first. Her wolf surged, a low growl vibrating through her chest, instincts blazing. The alpha moved to intercept, but she was already there, precise and lethal in her movements. With a fluid motion, she intercepted the rogue, dodging claws and countering with swift, calculated strikes that revealed the strength few had seen. Her wolf roared inside her, a surge of power and fury that left even the alpha momentarily stunned. "You're reckless," he growled, rushing to her side, Storm, gray eyes alight with tension and something deeper admiration, desire, a spark of undeniable connection. "I'm not weak," she replied, amber eyes blazing, wolf coiled and ready beneath her skin. The danger was still present, but so was the silent pull between them, the magnetic tension neither could fully resist. Together, they drove the rogue back, a perfect, unspoken synchronicity forming between them. Each glance, each movement, carried the weight of trust and recognition. Pride warred with desire, yet in those moonlit moments the boundaries of their roles blurred. When the threat was gone, the forest settled into quiet again, but the energy lingered, charged, taut, unresolved. She and the alpha stood closer than propriety allowed, hearts still racing, breaths mingling in the cold night air. "You are extraordinary," he murmured, voice low, barely a growl. His hand hovered near hers, hesitant, unspoken, a silent question of connection. Her wolf purred beneath her ribs, sensing the magnetic tension, savoring the moment of shared danger and intimacy. "Do not falter," it whispered. "The bond is forming. Let it simmer." She did not move away, though reason and pride urged restraint. Instead, she met his gaze, amber against storm, gray, and felt the silent promise in the space between them, a promise of passion, power, and the inevitability of recognition. The night watched in quiet approval as two wolves, one literal, one human, stood in the silver glow, hearts racing, instincts aligned, yet restrained by the fragile threads of pride, fear, and unspoken desire. And somewhere, deep in the forest, the hidden wolf stirred, whispering of storms yet to come, of bonds yet to be tested, of power that would no longer remain unseen. The sun dipped low, casting long golden streaks across the pack's courtyard, yet the tension in the air was electric, unbroken. Today was no ordinary gathering. The Alpha had called a meeting a display of power and authority, and she knew, somehow, that her world was about to shift. The pack assembled, murmurs rippling like restless currents. She moved through the crowd with measured grace, her wolf coiled beneath her calm exterior, senses alert to every flicker of gaze, every whispered doubt. The rival wolves lingered, uneasy, sensing that the balance they had tried to manipulate was tilting. He appeared then, stepping to the center of the gathering storm, gray eyes sweeping the crowd with commanding precision. Every head bowed, every whisper fell silent, and then his gaze locked on her. Amber met Storm, gray, a tension so thick it could almost be felt physically, electric and undeniable. "She stands among us," he said, voice carrying across the courtyard, low and resonant, yet undeniably powerful. "Stronger than some of you may realize. Her presence is no accident." The words sent ripples through the pack, shock, murmurs, some awe, some fear, and beneath it all, admiration that dared not speak her name. Her wolf stirred, sensing the Alpha's acknowledgement, its silent approval coiling beneath her skin. This was no idle praise, it was a claim, a declaration that she was no longer merely a participant in the pack's hierarchy, but someone whose presence and power demanded recognition. The Alpha stepped closer, the crowd parting instinctively around them. "I will not hide my recognition." He continued, voice a low rumble of authority. "She is mine, not by possession, but by respect, for her strength, her cunning, and her wolf." A hush fell, the gravity of his claim pressing down like the weight of the mountains surrounding them. Some wolves stiffened, loyalty warring with surprise. Others exchanged uneasy glances, realizing the tide had shifted. She felt the words settle over her like fire and silk. Pride flared, yes, but more than that, a thrill of recognition, of acceptance, of the bond that had been simmering beneath unspoken glances and near touches. Her wolf purred low, a vibration of contentment, power, and readiness. The Alpha's storm, gray eyes softened for a heartbeat, storm and calm intertwined. "Do not mistake my claim for weakness," he said, voice just above a growl. "It is acknowledgement, and you," his gaze held hers, intense and unflinching, "are more than I ever anticipated." Her chest rose and fell with steady breaths, wolf coiled and ready, heart beating in tandem with his unspoken acknowledgement. She had anticipated resistance, challenge, perhaps even confrontation, but what neither of them had expected was the undeniable magnetic pull, the thrill of the storm within both of them, colliding, yet restrained by respect, pride, and the weight of public scrutiny. When the gathering dispersed, leaving the courtyard echoing with tension and wonder, she remained for a moment longer, alone with the memory of his gaze and his words. Her wolf whispered softly, approvingly, in the depths of her mind, "Recognition is yours. Power is yours. Now be ready for what comes next." And as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the forest in crimson and gold, she felt it. The quiet promise of storms yet to come, bonds yet to be tested, and a power no one would soon forget. The night was thick with tension, moonlight filtering through the trees in jagged silver patterns. The pack had gathered at the edge of the forest, their whispers echoing like restless shadows. Some were curious, some were fearful, and some, especially the rivals, were bracing for a spectacle they did not understand. She stepped forward, calm on the surface, though her wolf churned with anticipation beneath her skin. Every instinct screamed for release, for acknowledgement, for power to be seen and respected. The alpha was beside her, Storm, gray eyes watching, his presence grounding yet electrifying, heartbeats locked in silent synchrony. "You have hidden yourself long enough," he murmured, low and commanding. "Let them see what you truly are." Her lips curved in a faint, confident smile. The words were unnecessary. The wolf had already surged to the surface within her. Her senses sharpened, every sound, scent, and movement amplified beyond mortal comprehension. Muscles coiled, ready to strike, yet she moved with control, a storm contained within her human form. The pack froze as subtle tremors passed through the clearing. The trees seemed to lean closer, as if drawn to the power that radiated from her. Eyes widened in disbelief as shadows shifted unnaturally, fur bristling along the hidden contours of her wolf, revealing the strength they had only glimpsed in rumors and whispered tales. The rival stepped forward, claws unsheathed but faltered instantly. His bravado dissolved as he felt the presence, an energy so fierce, so unyielding that fear coiled in his chest. He was no longer confronting a mere human or fledgling shifter. He faced the embodiment of a wolf whose power rivaled any alpha in the pack. Her wolf roared, not audibly, but in the tremor that radiated through the ground, felt in every spine, every heartbeat of the pack. The forest itself seemed to hum with approval, the wind carrying whispers of awe and recognition. The alpha Storm, gray eyes darkened with something more than admiration, desire, respect, and a subtle recognition that she was no longer just his mate, in waiting but a force to be reckoned with in her own right. She moved deliberately, stepping between him and the rivals who still lingered, and her presence alone drove hesitation into their ranks. Her wolf's power surged, a living, breathing entity entwined with her own, unyielding, undeniable. "You see me now," she said, voice steady, carrying the weight of authority and wild strength. "Not as fragile, not as weak, not as you assumed." The rivals faltered, the pack murmured, and even the alpha, whose pride had always been a wall, felt his pulse quicken. There was no denying it. Her wolf had awakened fully, and with it, a power that changed everything. As the moonlight bathed her in silver, the hidden wolf whispered within her, triumphant and alive, "You are more than they can comprehend. You are power, you are fire, you are unstoppable." And in that moment the pack, and the alpha, understood. She was no longer a mystery to be underestimated. She was a storm coiled and ready, and the world would bend to the force she embodied. The forest shivered under the weight of anticipation, the moon a pale sentinel over the clearing. The rival pack had struck, fueled by envy and ambition, seeking to claim dominance over her pack and humiliate the alpha. They did not know what waited for them. She stood at the forefront, wolf coiled beneath her skin, senses alive with every movement, every rustle in the shadows. The alpha was beside her, Storm, gray eyes blazing, muscles tense with readiness. Pride, power, and desire mingled in the charged air between them, unspoken yet palpable. The attack began with a roar, claws flashing in the moonlight. Rival wolves charged, confident, arrogant, but unprepared. She moved with lethal grace, anticipating every strike, countering with precision. Her wolf surged within, amplifying her speed, her strength, her instincts beyond anything the attackers expected. The alpha struck beside her, teeth bared, claws cutting through the night, yet she matched him blow for blow. They moved in perfect synchronicity, a dance of power and trust forged in unspoken connection. Every strike, every dodge, every growl spoke of unity, of strength, of dominance. The rival leader lunged at her, teeth glinting, fury in his eyes. But she was ready. She sidestepped with a fluid motion, claws flashing, wolf roaring in triumph. With a controlled burst of power, she sent him sprawling, the momentum of her strike leaving him breathless and humiliated. Pack members rallied around her, inspired by the sight of her dominance, their loyalty solidifying. Murmurs of awe replaced whispers of doubt. The tide of battle turned as she led the charge, wolf and human as one, unstoppable, commanding, fierce. The Alpha's gaze never left her, admiration and desire burning brightly. This is her power, he thought, pride coiling in his chest, and it is magnificent. As the rival pack retreated, broken and disoriented, she stood at the center of the clearing, chest heaving, wolf coiled and triumphant. The forest seemed to hum with approval, wind-carrying whispers of awe and fear. She had not only defended the pack, she had dominated, claimed respect, and revealed the depth of her strength to all who doubted her. The Alpha approached afterward, Storm, gray eyes dark, intense. "You saved them," he murmured, voice low, almost a growl. "You are more than I ever imagined." She met his gaze, amber locking with Storm, gray, wolf purring beneath her skin, pride and power mingling. "I told you," she said softly, a smile playing at her lips, "I am not weak." The Alpha's lips curved slightly, a mixture of respect, desire, and acknowledgement. "No," he admitted, voice a growl of approval. "You are far from it." The forest quieted again, leaving only the echoes of battle, of power unleashed, and of a bond strengthened in fire and fury. The pack knew it now. She was no longer merely a member. She was a force to be reckoned with, a queen in her own right, and her wolf purred in satisfaction, knowing that the storm had only just begun. The morning after the battle, the forest was calm, almost serene, as if it too was savoring the victory. The rival pack had retreated, humbled and broken, and the tension that had gripped her own pack began to ease. She walked through the clearing, amber eyes scanning familiar faces, noting the mix of respect and awe now present where doubt had once lingered. Her wolf stirred beneath her skin, satisfied and at peace for the first time in what felt like ages. She had proven herself not with arrogance but with precision, strength, and controlled fury. The pack knew it now. They had no choice but to acknowledge her as more than they had ever imagined. The Alpha approached, his Storm, gray eyes locking onto hers with a mixture of pride and something far deeper. His gait was deliberate, each step carrying the weight of authority and desire, and yet softened by the acknowledgement of what she had just achieved. "You have exceeded every expectation," he said quietly, voice low, almost reverent. "And yet you do not bow to me. You stand proud, unyielding, and I respect that." She met his gaze, her own steady and strong wolf thrumming beneath her skin. "I am no one's subordinate," she replied softly. "I am who I am, and I will not hide it anymore." A silence fell, heavy and charged, filled only with the unspoken connection that had been building between them. The Alpha stepped closer, his hand brushing hers, not in command, but in recognition. Amber met Storm, gray, pride and desire mingling in a tension that was finally allowed to breathe. "You are remarkable," he murmured. His voice carried the weight of acknowledgement, admiration, and a promise. "Not just to me, but to this pack, to everyone." Her wolf purred low, content and approving, sensing the completion of a circle long in formation. She had survived rejection, rival schemes, and public scrutiny. She had claimed her strength, and now, alongside the Alpha, her place was finally sealed. For a moment, the world narrowed to just the two of them, the forest and the quiet hum of power and recognition. Pride and past wounds faded into something warmer, trust, acceptance, and the beginnings of something deeper, more intimate. The Alpha leaned slightly closer, a subtle yet undeniable claim, not of possession, but of partnership, of respect, and of the magnetic bond that had been growing since the very first stolen glance. She met him, heart steady yet racing, wolf and human coiled together, and knew that the storm had finally settled. At least for now. Fate had been sealed not with domination, but with acknowledgement, respect, and the promise of what they could become together. The pack watched, quiet and reverent. She was no longer a nobody. She was a force, a leader, a queen in her own right, and the Alpha had finally recognized it. The pack gathered beneath the first light of dawn, the golden sun spilling over the trees, painting the clearing in shades of fire and gold. It was a new day, one that marked more than victory. It marked recognition, power, and the beginning of a new order. She walked beside the Alpha, head held high, wolf coiled and calm beneath her skin, radiating authority that demanded respect. Every eye turned toward her, once filled with doubt or envy. now alight with admiration, awe, and acceptance. She had claimed her place, not by arrogance, but by strength, courage, and undeniable presence. The alpha's storm, gray eyes never left her, a mixture of pride, desire, and fierce respect blazing in their depths. He had watched her grow, battled beside her, and now he acknowledged her fully, not as a subordinate, not as a mysterious stranger, but as his equal, his partner, his queen. Today, we honor not only strength, but unity, he declared, voice ringing across the clearing. She has proven herself time and again, not just in battle, but in spirit. She stands among us, not behind us. And I, his gaze locked onto hers, intense and unflinching, stand with her. A ripple of approval passed through the pack. Murmurs of respect, once cautious, now rang with certainty. She felt their energy shift, their loyalty solidifying around her, the balance of power realigned in recognition of what she had always been capable of. She met the alpha's gaze, amber meeting storm, gray, and in that look, the history of stolen glances, challenges, and battles was acknowledged. Pride softened into trust, desire simmered into quiet understanding, and the bond between them, once restrained, tentative, and fraught with tension, now blossomed fully into something undeniable. Her wolf purred low beneath her ribs, sensing the culmination of trials, the recognition of power, and the acceptance she had longed for. The forest around them seemed to lean closer, celebrating, approving, witnessing the moment when two wolves, human and wolf alike, stood united. She finally allowed herself a small, serene smile. She was no longer a shadow, a mystery, or a contender hiding in plain sight. She was seen, she was respected. She was a queen among wolves, and beside her stood the alpha who had once rejected her, now fully aware of the force, the fire, and the heart she carried. Together, they turned toward the forest beyond the clearing, a silent promise passing between them, of strength, loyalty, and a bond forged in fire, tested in battle, and tempered by respect. The pack exhaled collectively, the air lighter, more harmonious. She had earned her place, her power recognized, her wolf fully acknowledged, and she would never again be underestimated. The first light of dawn spilled across the forest, soft and golden, washing the clearing in warmth. The pack stirred around her, moving with renewed purpose and unity, their loyalty now unquestioned. She stood at the edge of the trees, the breeze ruffling her hair, wolf coiled beneath her skin, calm and alert, a silent guardian of her world. The battles were behind them, the rival packs humbled, the challenges overcome, and her place firmly secured. Yet beneath the serenity, she felt the familiar pulse of power that had always defined her, a whisper of untapped strength that promised there was more to come. The alpha joined her silently, storm, gray eyes reflecting both admiration and unspoken affection. They did not speak at first. Words were unnecessary. Their hands brushed, fingers intertwining, a subtle acknowledgement of battles fought, victories won, and a bond forged through fire and loyalty. "You've changed everything," he murmured, voice low, reverent. "The pack, me, we will never be the same." She smiled softly, amber eyes meeting his. "We've grown together. That is what matters." Her wolf purred beneath her ribs, sensing his acknowledgement, his respect, and the quiet promise of partnership. The forest around them seemed to settle, exhaling after the storms of conflict. Yet even in that calm, there were whispers of untapped potential, of power yet to be explored, of adventures waiting beyond the horizon. Her wolf stirred, alert and eager, reminding her that strength was not a destination but a journey, and that some mysteries were meant to remain just beyond reach. For now, the alpha stepped closer, brushing a strand of hair from her face, storm, gray eyes softened by admiration and desire. "Whatever comes next," he said quietly, "we face it together." Her smile widened, a mixture of pride, love, and anticipation. "Together," she agreed, and in that word there was both certainty and promise, the kind that could bend fate and withstand any storm. The sun rose higher, illuminating the pack, the forest, and the two of them standing side by side. A new day had begun, one of peace, power, and recognition. Yet beneath it all, a subtle hum of possibility whispered through the trees. Her wolf, silent yet alive, reminded her that strength had many layers, and the world would soon discover just how unstoppable she truly was. And as they walked back to the pack side by side, she allowed herself a final thought. The dawn was new, the future uncharted, and she, Queen Warrior Wolf, was ready for whatever came next.